What's up, guys? Wanted to make this video today because it is the 14th, and this is when the movie technically releases, which is weird to me because you could go see it in theaters and on Peacock streaming yesterday on the 13th. So I've never really understood, and it's not just this movie they did that, it's quite a few movies they do that, which doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. We bought our tickets it was probably like a month ago. It's been a while. I don't want to say I'm a diehard fan. Like, I've more recently kind of got into the movies. I've always been a fan of them, but like it was just like up until a few years ago, like it was just some slasher films that I had seen. My personal favorites. I'm not gonna like dive too much into this here, but just like giving some background. My personal favorites are, which is kind of like the unpopular opinion, the 2018, just, Halloween. That is my personal favorite one. I like it. It's just, it's got a modern feel to it, but also has that classic vibe. Just seeing a kind of classic slasher film, but like with modern, cinematography was pretty cool. My second favorite is the original one, and then probably the original part two, and then Halloween Kills, which is like the new trilogy part two, and this final one, which we were so excited for. Like, we literally dressed up and went to the theater and everything. Like, there was, let's see, like 6 of us, I think, and 4 of us were dressed up, like full Michael Myers outfit, boots, overalls, the masks. It was like probably one of the biggest letdowns of my entire life, movie-wise. Actually, no, movie-wise, it was absolutely the biggest letdown of my entire life, by far. And the only people, like, normally my movie taste is kind of out there. Like, I don't know what to compare it to honestly give you guys like a reference point. Like, a lot of movies that people don't like, I end up loving, and they can become my favorite movies. One that pops up into my head is like Need for Speed with Aaron Paul. Like, kind of weird out there movie, but like me and my wife genuinely love that movie. Most people hate it or they've never even heard of it. So a lot of times we're recommended a movie like, oh yeah, watch this movie, it's great. We're like, how did anybody watch this? So we kind of do have oddball taste, but every one of us that was in the theater hated it. Besides us, I want to say there was like 4 other people in our theater, and everybody was just kind of chit-chatting as we walked out. Everybody had the same thoughts. Like, what did I just waste almost 2 hours of my time on? So it's got an hour and 51-minute runtime, and the best description of it so far that I've seen is, well, it's kind of like what I've read and then my own little twist. So somebody was like, it was mostly filler, and then the ending was kind of good. So the way I said it, I kind of reworded it to my own, was it was about an hour and 40 minutes of garbage, and then about 8 to 10 minutes of a good movie. I will put in a bunch of comments right here that I've just 5 minutes on Facebook. I scrolled through a few posts and this is what I saw. For every one person that seemed to enjoy it, 50 people strongly disliked it. The whole movie overall, like, there are going to be spoilers. Spoiler alert right now. Let me lay this flat out on the table. If you haven't seen it and you were thinking about going to the theaters, like, we all regret it. We're all mad that we have Peacock and we chose to pay to see this. So the movie starts out with this kid named Corey. He's teenager, like older teenager. Last minute called to be a babysitter. Kid plays a prank on him, locks him in the attic, and this house is like 20 stories. And the attic door is like right on top, like conveniently like right next to the ledge for the stairs or whatever, the railing. Kid somehow lures the babysitter in there, and mind you, this kid's like 6 or 7 maybe. Lures the babysitter in there and then slams the door shut, locks it. The parents are about to come home. Like, the parents are pulling in at that time in the driveway. The babysitter's just beating on the door, screaming, let me out. Like, he's scared, obviously, because he thought like Michael Myers or somebody was in the house chasing the kid. So he's terrified up there. He starts kicking the door, and then he gets pissed. Pretty understandably. And then he says, as the parents are walking in, they're hearing this, door slamming, and then you hear the kid, Corey, the babysitter, say, Jeremy, I'm going to kill you, or something along those lines. And then he just basically just donkey kicks the door open. Door flies open, hits the kid in the face. The kid tumbles over the railing right in front of the parents, down, breaks his neck, and he's dead. Kind of interesting start. But as you're watching it, like the intro, when it's showing like the Universal logo and all that stuff and all the logos, it's playing like a really tacky, cheesy, like WURG something something Haddonfield's #1 rock station, and some cocky guy like announcing on the radio, and then it starts playing a song that just really doesn't fit the vibe of what you're expecting. And then the font. So let me backtrack a little bit. Yeah, we're going to backtrack to the opening. So the font, you're used to that classic, like, old orange font. That's Halloween to me. That's always been the Halloween movies. Not this one. This is like a modern blue. It doesn't fit at all. It's terrible. So right off the bat, all of our kind of expectations. I think actually a couple of us. I didn't want to watch any trailers, so I didn't. I didn't watch any trailers. So I had no idea what we were going into. And I promise you, whatever you possibly think might happen, doesn't happen. So just from that opening alone, before the movie even technically starts, our expectations went like this: a movie franchise that's been around for like almost 50 years. I believe the first one was 1978. Like almost 50 years. And this is like your closeout chapter, like the final, it ends, everything is over. You're going to see what happens. Without seeing any trailers, like I had pretty high expectations. Like I said, I've loved most of the movies in general. A couple of them I'm not really a fan of, like The Curse of Michael Myers, the one where they do like the reality show. A couple of them like are kind of like low tier to me, but they're still good in their own ways. So after the accident, the parents look up. They're like, "What did you do?" And he's sitting there. And he's actually holding a knife too, because there was a knife that the kid grabbed. A big kind of slasher type knife, and conveniently dropped on the stairs. And Corey picks it up. You remember. You've seen it probably. Like I said, it totally skips ahead like 4 years. You kind of don't really know until they mention that it's been 4 years. You also find out in that same time frame that you learn that it's been 4 years that Corey got away like scot-free with everything, like didn't get convicted of anything. So this kid, they really portray him as like a complete total like outcast now, like quiet, doesn't talk to anybody, no friends, just goes to work, comes home, goes to work, comes home, which again, it's understandable, based on what's happened. But they also very much portray of every bad scenario that he's in, he kind of like cowards out. Like he doesn't stand up for himself. He has no voice. Like he won't defend himself. And of course, 4 bullies pull up in a car, want him to buy alcohol. He says no. Then they realize who he is. Then they start bullying him and picking on him. And one of the best comments I saw about the movie as well is they said that it was like numerous writers had a bunch of different storylines that they wanted to put in there, and they couldn't pick just one. So they like threw them all in there. And that's genuinely what it feels like, because you go from like this to all of a sudden years later you're over here at this scene, and then you're back across town doing something else. And then the biggest thing, like right off the bat, you see Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis. From, we're going to say part 1 and 2, which what I'm talking about is the 2018 Halloween and Halloween Kills. So that's what I'm going to refer to when I say part 1 and 2. In those parts, she is a literal social recluse. Like, her house is in the middle of nowhere in the woods. It is completely fenced in. She has no social life, no connection to the outside world. She has a gun in her hand 24 hours a day. Her entire house is booby-trapped with switches and traps all over for Michael Myers. And she clearly, like, the few times you see her come out in the first Halloween, she clearly has just no social skills. She's just a mess. And then in part 2, part 1, like, everyone calls her crazy. She's psycho, yada, yada, yada. But, like, in the end, she ends up being right. And then in part 2, Halloween Kills, she's not really in it that much. But she's still that same character. In this one, in part 3, the final chapter, Halloween Ends, she's just like your typical suburban mom, has a nice little white picket fence home. She's baking, lives with her granddaughter. Life's great. She's typing a book upstairs on her laptop. No social awkwardness at all. And that's weird to me, because anybody that had her mind state, her mental state from that first movie would not, in a short period of time, just be able to flip a switch and live this seemingly normal, happy-go-lucky life. Like, you just lost your daughter and her husband and a ton of family and friends. You know, you've this person, this murderer, you know, the Shape they call him. He escaped after 40 years. Like, you hadn't seen him in 40 years, and you were like this. But now, just literally a couple years later, after he's out and escaped, and he's still escaped and out there, you're just living this normal life. I don't know. I found that very weird. It was a cool side to see of her, but it just didn't fit at all. And then her granddaughter, Allison, I forgot her name there for a second. She also seems to be living like a somewhat normal life after just losing both parents, you know, boyfriend, some friends in your group. But I've luckily never experienced that, so I can't really say what it would be like. But she seems to be like some sort of nurse or like assistant, something like that. And Lori brings Corey into the hospital after he hurt his hand, just out of the blue. Like, she happens to pop up there and they just hit it off like they're good friends. Allison is helping out, like helping the doctor, you know, sew his hand and whatnot, you know, take care of the stitches and cleaning it up and whatnot, cleaning the wound. And she's just like tripping over herself, like as if like, we're not talking like love at first sight. We're talking about like looking at each other, interacting with each other, acting as if they've hooked up before or something of that nature. Like, it was just really odd. And then later in the movie, she says something along the lines of, you know, when the accident happened with, you know, I think the baby, the kid he was babysitting was named like Jeremy or Jeremiah. Jeremy, I think. You know, with the accident, when the accident happened with him, I felt like I knew you and I felt like I needed to be close to you and this and that. And I was just, it was weird. It really made no sense. And then, fast forward, she drags him out to this Halloween party. They're dancing, this really weird scene, like they're on this dance floor, and kind of like a bar, club type deal. And he's laying on the ground, like in the middle of this dance floor. Like, I thought he was having a seizure because it looked really odd. But apparently they were just having the time of their lives. And she's, you know, rubbing all up on him. And then he gets up and he goes to get a beer. He goes up to the bar, you know, enjoying himself for the first time, probably in many years, asks for a beer. Well, Jeremy's mom is sitting right there at the bar and turns to him and kind of freaks out on him because, you know, she sees the boy man who murdered her son just out having a good time. So he ends up storming out. And then Allison comes out and they do this tacky, like, you know, watch out. And he happens to step back before, you know, like a semi comes just barreling through. It's like as if he didn't see that without her saying that. And then that whole scene was weird because he just goes into this like depressive state of like, you don't know what it's like. You know, people see you as a survivor. People see me as a creep and a weirdo and a murderer. And he basically says like, you can't save me. And, you know, where were you in there? Like she was on the dance floor. He walked away to go get a drink. So I don't know like what he meant was like, where were you? She was right there dancing where you walked away from her. And then they have this little kind of like argument. And she does these weird things and he ends up taking off. And then, of course, the four bullies in the car come pulling up. He tries to kind of defend himself. He pulls out a knife, but they conveniently just quickly knock it out of his hand and then kind of scuffle. He ends up falling over the side of this bridge, and they take off. And, of course, he's not dead. I don't know. He fell probably easily what I would say or assume is 40, 50 feet. Didn't die. You see this just kind of figure, you don't know what it is, but you know what it is, it's Michael Myers, crawl out of this sewer. And it's like a, you know, like a big manhole sewer cover. And he pulls Corey in there, and there's this weird homeless man just kind of like rambling on incoherently. Then Corey wakes up a few minutes later, and he's in this like big sewer, you know, kind of like where all the pipes meet. It's just like a big cement room, essentially. And he's looking around, and there's rats and stuff, and he kind of gets up and just starts to go leave, and then he turns over and sees essentially Michael Myers kind of like behind this grate, like almost hiding. And then Michael Myers like is choking him, and then somehow like telepathically communicates and sees what Corey has went through, and then he lets him go. So they kind of like insinuate that like Michael Myers like transferred his powers or something over, which I don't know. It's Michael Myers. I didn't know he had powers that he could just grab somebody and like transfer the evil to or whatever. And Corey just kind of like stumbles away, and Michael Myers is just standing there, not saying anything, not really doing anything. And Corey stumbles out of there. The homeless man comes up to him, and the homeless man's all in his face. He's like, "Why did he let you live? What's so special about you?" And then he's like, the homeless man goes, "Go back in there and get the mask. I'm Michael Myers." And then Corey takes the same knife that he dropped and stabs the homeless guy and kills him. And then fast forward, Corey is like the original Halloween, 1978 or whatever, when you see Michael Myers kind of like hiding behind the bush a little bit, but just standing there, and Laurie sees him staring at her. Corey's doing the same thing. Laurie's upstairs in her little office thing. Corey's out standing by the bush doing the same thing. And then she goes down there, he's gone. And then he pops up, scares, the crap out of her. And then Allison comes up. He basically apologizes to her about the night before and then says, "I really would need you to take a walk with me." So, of course, they take a walk together because, she's just absolutely infatuated with this boy. But now he's like, a Michael Myers clone. He looks at her, he's like, "I killed someone." And then they hold hands and end up going and breaking into the house where the child was killed, 4 years prior. The house is like abandoned now and boarded up. And he tells her about the story, and I'm not going to go into any more detail because I'm telling you guys the whole movie, and chances are you've already watched it. But, it was literally garbage. And that storyline could have been really cool. I could have enjoyed that. I could have got down with that. But not as the final movie. That was such a pointless plot, in my opinion, and apparently a majority of everybody else's opinion, that I'm just pissed off. Like, this creature, this giant evil spirit, Michael Myers, the shape they call him, all the stuff, just in the movie prior, just in Halloween Kills, there's that whole mob beating him, shooting him, kicking him, punching him, just beating the living shit out of him. And he gets up and still fights everybody off and wins. And then in this movie, he's like apparently living in the Ninja Turtles' old house. He's just chilling in a sewer. And apparently when people go in that sewer, he kills them. But then he just stays in the sewer. And so let's fast forward now to the end scene. She wins. Like, all the stuff in Halloween 1, the 2018 version, the fire, the guns, the blows, the stabs, everything. And he walks out of it just unscathed, just perfectly. In this one, she smacks him around a little bit, she punches him, stabs him, and the stab really just kind of was did him in, and she stabs his hand onto the counter, and he's laying there like that, and then she knocks the fridge onto one of his legs, and now he's basically pinned and trapped, and then she stabs him again, and he's basically dead, but then he gets enough strength to literally rip his hand away from the knife, which completely splits it right here, and he's choking her. And then her granddaughter, comes in magically, saves the day, screams weirdly and breaks his arm, and that kills him. Out of everything we've seen in all these movies, every crazy scenario, just a couple stabs and crushing his leg with the fridge. That's all they needed to do to kill him. I don't know. For me, for everybody I know, for all my coworkers that I was talking to about it today, and almost all of the Facebook, all my friends on Facebook, I've got about 350 friends, mostly coworkers. All of the people, at least about 10, 15 posts I've seen, hated it. Not just it was kind of weak. Absolutely hated it with a passion. Everything I've seen on Facebook, for every one comment that somebody was like, "I really enjoyed it, I thought it was a great movie," there's 50 people that absolutely hated it. There was one comment I saw. A lady said, "I don't know why people hate it so much. I literally cried from the time the movie started till it ended." I'm like, that's weird, because the movie sucked. But she started saying it was just sentimental because, she grew up with Michael Myers and now he's dead. But then at the end of the movie, they're doing kind of a monologue voiceover thing. Everybody lives happily ever after. But then Laurie Strode says, evil doesn't actually ever die, it just takes different forms. So basically, I don't know when. I'm assuming maybe in the next couple years, we're going to see another Michael Myers. And I hope the person who wrote this one does not have anything to do with any new ones, because even the Rob Zombie ones that most people hate blew this one out of the water. Like, it wasn't barely gory. So the kills, you see him kind of kill a couple people with the typical stabbing in the chest, which is just generic Michael Myers killing. You see Corey Michael Myers, runs one over with the truck. You don't even see the other one. He just must have stabbed him or something like that, because they just show his face and he's bloody. The gory one was the DJ. Like, he basically like just smashes his face so much his jaw's just hanging down. He cuts his tongue. And one of the kids, I think it was the main high school punk or whatever, bully, he takes a literal torch and just torches the whole bottom of his mouth. But that scene right there even was really stupid, because this girl was like holding onto a chain link fence. The truck hits it and runs her over, but she's still alive under the fence. So the guy comes, he's like, "Are you all right?" He's like, "Where's so-and-so?" And he's like, "She's dead." And then she sees, Corey Michael Myers behind him, and she goes, "So are you." And then that's when he, comes and beats him and hits the torch on his mouth. And it was just, a lot of slasher movies, like, they're tacky and cheesy, but like, this was just like, I just don't have words. I want to know what you guys think. Like, put it down in the comments below. Tell me your thoughts. If you watched this and you didn't watch the movie, I gave you guys spoiler alerts. That's on you. So don't be mad at me. But also, like, tell me why you watched this, before watching the movie. Let me know where you guys are going to see it in the theaters. You guys are going to watch it on Peacock? Are you guys going to wait till it's streaming on something free that you don't have to pay for? Because I don't blame you. Like, I would not pay any money for this movie. Like, it's horrible. And no, that's not me recommending that you illegally watch it. No, I'm just saying, like, if I could go back in time, I would tell myself, wait till it's on Netflix or one of the streaming services that you already have. Don't buy any other service just to watch this movie, because it sucks. It's horrible, and I'm so freaking mad. And see that, I just want to throw that thing in the trash, that damn mask. We literally dressed up. Like, I got the overalls, I've got the boots. These are some cheap Walmart ones, but they work for the costume. I've got that mask, and then I've got the 2018 mask. The 2018 mask is my favorite, but it is so small. I got a big head. That one is like a full-size regular mask, and it is snug. It's pushing the limits. The 2018 one is like inches smaller than that, and you don't notice it until you see them side by side. And if I had it with me right now, I'd show you guys. But when I put that thing on my head, like, the mask is like stretched out like this because it is so dang small. But yeah, we even seen it with Angry Grandma. She was with us, and she just thought it was horrible. Like, she was pissed the whole time. She was over there cussing. I wish I could have recorded it. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think down below. I have no words. It was bad.